Hello everyone. Welcome to the first ever Rift editor tutorial for version 1 of the Rift editor. In this tutorial I'll be going over pretty much everything you need to know to get started with the editor, as well as a couple of tips so that just your editing is more efficient, it's faster, and it's cleaner, and it's nicer, and it's just more sexy, and everything is cool. Um, First thing we're going to go over is loading and creating levels. Oh, also, I put timestamps in the description for each one of the parts. So if you're looking for something specific, go to the timestamps and you have everything there. Anyway, yeah. We're going to start with loading and creating levels. So I'm going to get into loading levels second. When we create a level, you're going to want to hit this Create New button right here. It'll bring you to this page, which will ask you to name your level. So in this, for example, I'm just going to do Editor Tutorial, and then you have to choose a base, and the base is basically what your level starts off with. So grass flat is like a big grass plain, dirt flat is like a big dirt plain, etc., etc., etc. And I'll let you experiment around with these and look at the different bases and see which one you prefer. And it also depends on what level you're trying to build or what your ideas are. You want to have a different base for that. But for this example, I'm just going to go with the default grass flat base. And once I'm ready, once all of this is set up, I'm going to hit create, and that's going to load into um, the editor right here. Now, in terms of the basic commands, um, you're going to, in order to look around, like just moving your mouse without doing anything, is just going to move the cursor that you see on the screen. By holding right click, you can move the camera along with your mouse, pretty much like most editors. So like if you've ever used um, Blender or Unity, they tend to have this setup for where you can move around or look around with holding right click. And then to move around, you can use WASD, like pretty much every first person game ever in the existence of the universe. And if you want to move a bit faster, you can hold shift and it will increase your movement speed so you can get around quicker. And if this is your first time opening the editor, you'll also be able to use what you see up here in the controls text. In case you forget, we have WSD to move, spacebar to ascend. So by hitting spacebar, you go up, and by hitting left control, you go down. But you can change this inside of the settings when you're in preview mode, which is the mode where you're able to play as the player. You can go in and you can go to your pause settings, you can go to your controls, and you can change it from being left control and spacebar to other stuff. For example, I have mine set to Q and E because that's what I'm used to in engines like Unity, and so that's what I wanted it to be here. Um, Tab allows you to switch between editor modes. At the bottom, you see this UI right here that says placement mode. If I hit tab, it switches it to edit mode. And the differences between this mode is placement mode allows you to place objects into the world, and edit mode allows you to manipulate those objects. So doing things like rotate, move, scale, and eventually there'll be stuff like a property editor, so you can change, certain properties of an object or the color of something, etc., etc. But that's not in this version yet. This is version 1. Um, so if I'm in placement mode and I want to, place something into this world. Let's say I wanted to place a wall. So I can open up the inventory by hitting escape, which will open up the inventory. Or what I can do is I can go up to the top here and I can hit this button, the square button, to, oh wait, hold on. No, sorry, it's the circle button. This one will also open the inventory. Um, and I'll explain what the other buttons do in a second. So how the inventory is situated is on the left side you have all of these buttons. All of these buttons are your bundles. And on the right you have all the prefabs inside of that bundle. So the first bundle is cubes, and so the prefab inside of that bundle are just all different types of cubes. So you have right now, since there isn't a property editor to change the colors or anything, I just have a bunch of different versions of cubes with different colors. So if I choose cube 1, you see it selects it here, and then boom, now I can place it using my mouse. Now you see I'm in placement mode, so it allows me to place this. If I go into edit mode, I won't be able to place this, so make sure you're in placement mode. To place an object, simply click it, and you can click multiple times too to create multiple objects. And if you want to switch objects, you can just go back into the inventory and select something else, except there it's kind of hard to see. So if I select a fir tree instead, and then I click, boom, fir tree, all that stuff is cool. Um, Another thing is if I choose this object, if you're in placement mode and before you place anything, you can use the middle mouse button to rotate the object. So, sorry, not the middle mouse button, the scroll wheel. And the scroll wheel will allow you to rotate objects. Um, so by scrolling up, you rotate to the right. By scrolling down, you rotate to the left. And then by middle clicking, you can do immediate 90-degree turns, 90-degree turns. This comes useful so if I'm placing a bush against this wall, and then I want to place it against that wall, I can just middle click and immediately goes there. Um, that's all there really is to placement mode. Once you go back into edit mode, there's much more things you can do. So if you want to select an object, super simple, simply click on it. And by clicking on it, you'll get the outline of the object that you've selected and this little gizmo here. And this gizmo is going to be your best friend while you're working on while working in the editor. But before I go into that, I want to quickly show you how to delete objects. So if I click on an object and then I hit backspace, it'll delete it. Or if I click on an object and I hit delete, it'll also delete it. So up to you which one you want to use. I know some people have different preferences. Um, but now, yeah, back to this. So we have the handle gizmo here that we can use to manipulate the position. This is the position gizmo, the one with the arrows. So if I hold down, if I click any of these arrows and then I drag, it allows me to move it in that direction, whether it's up, down, forward, right, left, all that stuff. And then here will allow me to move it against that plane. So right here I'm only moving it against the Y plane. Here only moving it against the X plane. Same thing for here. So it's good for like when you want to try to move stuff here without going like, oh yeah, I need to do this. You can just grab this circle and you can just move it like that, and it'll stay in that one area. Um, but again, moving is not the only thing you can do in this editor. So there are hotkeys for everything in the editor, just so you know. But there are also the buttons up top for while you're still getting used to the hotkeys or you can't remember them all. There's these buttons to help you with that. So the play button doesn't work right now because we don't have any sort of spawner for the player, so we can't spawn the player in yet. This button here allows you to switch between placement and edit mode. So if you don't remember tab all the time, you can click this button to switch between edit and placement mode. So when I'm in placement mode, say I have the bushes back, and I go back into edit mode, boom. But this is what you're really gonna want to use right here, this arrow one. This allows you to change the gizmo type. There's only 3 gizmo types because you only need 3 gizmo types. There's the arrows, which we know is already for position. There's this one, the sphere, which is used for rotation. You can see I can rotate it on all of the axes here. And then the last one is the scaling gizmo, which just allows you to scale objects in any direction, um, like so. And you can also control Z and everything. I've implemented all that, so you don't have to worry about accidentally making a mistake and then worrying about like, oh no, I made this mistake and I can't go back and fix and like undo it. But you can do that. Control Z is there. There's a list of all the commands over here on the left underneath the controls. So if ever you wanted to give that a shot, you can come in here and you can try all that. Um, Another cool thing is the use of global and local positions. So if I go and I rotate the object, and then I hit this globe object, this globe thing right here, I can then switch the gizmos to work in global position. So one actually, if the object is turned, um, but let's say the object is rotated, but I want to move it over here. Well, instead of going like this and trying to do all that, I can hit this button, and I can just move it that way. And again, hotkeys for everything. So the hotkey for switching between global and local position is hitting X, and the hotkey for switching the gizmo type is C. Um, and these so far for right now they're hard coded, so you can't actually modify those values. The only keybinds you can actually modify for the editor are going up and down and switching between edit and placement mode. But I will add that stuff in version 2 for sure if I remember. Then you have the square button, which you saw me click earlier. Again, this is going to be very, very helpful when it comes to making levels that have a lot of the same objects. Instead of going into the inventory and, oh, there's also search bar. Yeah, you can use a search bar. So if I wanted to find, I don't know, player spawn, and I can search it up here, grab it, and then I can go into placement mode and I can place it. Um, but this square button will open what's called the hot select menu. And the hot select menu is basically a hotbar that you can click on at any time to bring objects in without having to go into the inventory and search it up and look it up every single time. So for example, let's say I'm making, I don't know, I'm making some sort of, I don't know, I'm making something, and I'm using a lot of cubes, and I'm using a lot of, I don't know, fans, and I'm using a lot of bushes. We've already had some bushes. So now you see over here in the right, in the hot select menu, all of this is added, and inside of the inventory, you see the objects that are in the hot select menu have this little check on them, and that means that they're here. So then if I click on them and I'm in placement mode, it'll switch the object to that thing. You can also use 1, 2, 3 to switch between the objects. So you can add, I think, up to 9 objects here, and you can switch between them with 1, 2, 3. So like for example, let's say I'm building something, then boom, I want to place a fan, then boom, I want to place some bushes. It becomes so much faster than going into the editor each time. And if you want to remove something from the hot select menu, like let's say you're trying to add something but there's no more slots, or you have something that you've already been using and you don't need it anymore, what you can do is you can just right click that object. So right click the object that you want here. Instead of left clicking it to select the object, you right click it to remove it. And you can toggle this on and off with the button up here, the UI for it, or you can just hit R, does the same thing. Um, and before I show you the whole play mode thing, I do want to show you this last button, which is the level properties button, which I spent an ungodly amount of time making. This is arguably one of the coolest features of the editor. You can change the time settings, and the time settings dynamically change with the sun and everything. Let me try to position myself here. If I look at the sun, and then I go into the property editor, which I can also use to hit P, or I can hit the settings wheel up here. See, the sun changes, the moon changes with it, and everything. Seems like the light is a little off here. I'll fix that so that won't be a problem in the build that you guys will have. But yeah, that's how that works. And so I can have things like, for example, sunset, and all this saves. So when you save your level, Control S, um, then you see that little save thing pop up in the right. That means your level has been saved. And then when you load the level up again afterwards, it's going to remember all the objects you placed, the time of day, as well as the current weather. So for example, this is well, it should be the clear weather. The clear weather doesn't have any clouds. But if I change it to mostly clear, then you see it edits it so that it doesn't have any weather. If I reselect clear, there you go, clear. If I do something a bit more interesting, like overcast, this will automatically have clouds that go over everything and make everything really dark. Um, or I even have more exotic things like snow. 'Cause I know that's very exotic. I mean, I've never seen snow. That's a lie. I've seen snow before. Um, then you have the heavy snow variation as well. Same thing for rain. Um, there's just a lot of cool weather presets in here. There's like dust storms, thunderstorms, like dense fog, and then all of them look different depending on the time of day too. Um, so there's lots of potential when it comes to all this. And again, if I save, all of this will save to the level file, and it will come back when you load it, so you don't have to reset it each time. For now, I'm just going to go back to my default nice settings. Um, so lastly, we have um, the player spawner. And the player spawner is this object, and you're going to want to add it to all of your levels so that you can actually play it. This is the spawner objects. Wherever you're facing it is where you're going to spawn looking at. So I can spawn looking in any direction, but let's say I want to spawn looking at this tree, right? So I'm going to come here, and I'm going to switch to global position so I can move it even though it's rotated. Boom. I'm going to make him look at the tree. And then I have 3 different ways of entering the editor, or entering preview mode. One is I can click this play button right here, which will put me in, right where I was, right looking wherever the player was looking. Um, or I can do the command control tilde or squiggly line, whatever you call that weird looking thing. You can see it right here. You want to do that to toggle the preview, and then you can do that without having to click any sort of buttons. You just do it. It's instant. It's very nice. It makes testing your level so much easier. But let's say you don't have a player spawner next to where you want to test. Like let's say that's the beginning of the level, right? And your player is over here, but you're working over here in this part of the level. But you don't want to you don't have to play the whole level to get here each time. So what you can do is control caps lock, which will spawn a player at wherever the editor camera is. So if the editor camera, let's say the editor camera is in the air right over this corner, and I control caps lock, boom, it spawns the player right here. And that comes very useful for like testing things. But also, let's say you want to have players save their positions, like checkpoints, right? So they're playing the level and then they want to have a checkpoint. So you can actually add checkpoints. And this checkpoint right here, I just add that there. And when I walk through it, boom, you have a little thing in the top that says checkpoint. And if I leave the editor and come back, I'm going to spawn at the checkpoint. And the reason I have a gun now is because the last checkpoint I did was in a different level and I had a gun there, so it's saving that, as it should. Um, yeah, that's all that stuff. Last but not least, we have how you can actually get weapons and such into your game. I'm going to explain the most essential objects because they tend to be a little confusing. The chests and everything are in here. I mean, those kind of explain themselves. If I wanted to have a chest, I could put that in there, and then I could open that chest and get a weapon out of it. But what you're going to want to, what I know you're going to be using a lot of is this weapon wall right here, which has all of the different weapons on it. Is the checkpoint saved my position here? If I don't know, I could pick up any one of these weapons if I wanted. Shotgun, boom, I have a shotgun. Also, the color editing is fixed now. It used to be broken, but you can now still set your colors, uh, you know, to your heart's content, and they save properly and everything. And the chest, you can do that. You can open it, you can get the weapon out if I wanted the alien. Boom. Same thing for grenades. This object will disappear. All the prefabs and pickups that you put will disappear when you go back into the game, so you don't have to worry about them like being persistent or anything. And yeah, that's pretty much everything. I can show you the controls. If I go in here and I go to, if I go in here and I go to options, and then I go to controls, and I scroll all the way down, you have the editor controls, so you can see you can change the, I forgot to mention this. Yeah, you can also change the hotkey for changing the handle mode from like position, rotation, to scale. You can change the keybind for that, because that's used a lot. And then ascend, descend for the camera, and then change the from edit mode to placement mode is right here, and you can just click on these and you can change it. I'm not going to do it because I like these settings. Some of the other settings also got a bit of a revamp. This menu is a little strange for some reason, but I haven't gotten around to fixing that just yet. Last, but very definitely not least, is the new grenade chests and the vessel dispenser. Now, these are two of the new objects in Rift. As you can see, on the weapon wall, there's new grenades. If you want to equip a grenade, you simply hit E, and you can see the little icon in the bottom right here of your HUD changing to whatever grenade you're holding. And if you want to throw the grenade, I mean, it's very simple. Just hit G to throw the grenade. This is inside of the keybinds as well. So if you wanted to change it from G to, I don't know, whatever you prefer, you can definitely do that. I encourage you to experiment with the different types of grenades and the different game mechanics and how they all tie together, because there's a lot going on there. The grenade chests are chests that have grenades inside of them. So weapon chests have weapons. The weapon chests no longer spawn grenades inside of them, but the grenade chests do. And the vessel dispenser is a completely new object that is right now taking the place of the melee weapon customizer, which I haven't made yet, but it's just placeholder for now. When you open it, you have this menu that shows up that allows you to choose between 4 different melee weapons. The tomahawk, this has a very high amount of charge. So you can see in the bottom left here, it has 10 charges, so you can hit things 10 times. Does a good amount of damage. You can use it very fast, as you can see. Slicks has less amount of damage, or sorry, slower swinging times. You can only swing it half the amount of times, but it does more damage. Baguette is a funny weapon that I added because I'm French and I have to make sure everybody knows that. Has the same amount of swipes as the tomahawk. Only drawback is it doesn't really do any damage, but when you do hit enemies, um, it actually heals you. So it's kind of like lifesteal in a way. And then lastly, you have the scythe, and the scythe does massive amounts of damage. And it does damage to large groups of things, so you can use it for like crowd control and everything. But it also damages you when you use it. It also only has 4 uses, so it's a dangerous one. It's a dangerous weapon. Um, but yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on in this editor. Way more stuff that I'm showing, like an insane more amount of stuff that I haven't even gone into here, like gravity changing stuff, like water things, like base building. There's a whole thing. So I encourage you to go check it out. But I hope this video was helpful. Um, and yeah, thanks for watching up to this point. Uh, oh, one more thing before I go. The top left, you see the coins and shards um, thing. The coin and shards icons up here. So how you get coins is by killing enemies, right? You can spawn enemies. If I go out of the edit mode and like go into the inventory, all of these are enemies that you can spawn. When you kill them, you get a certain amount of coins. And every once in a while, if I spawn an enemy, I'm bound to get one eventually. Right, so this one has a purple outline, meaning it's a marked enemy. And marked enemies, not only do they give you coins when they die, but they also give you shards, which is that purple currency. And the purple currency is used to open shard doors. And these can block off sections of the level, so you have to fight enough enemies till you have enough shards before you can move on. And the coins are used for these pay chests, which in order, if you want to get a new weapon, you have to pay a certain price in order to get the objects inside of the weapon. Marked enemies are, or the object inside of the chest, sorry. And marked enemies you should be wary of because they do more damage and they have more health, but it's more risk for reward as well. And they also have a higher chance of dropping heals. So it could be like, oh yeah, I'm going to conserve this enemy even though it's super dangerous. So I'm going to not fight him yet so that I can have heals for later. That kind of thing. Um, yeah, that's all there really is to explain. The rest is basically, it's pretty self-explanatory, but if you have any questions, make sure to send me a message on Discord. Discord is definitely linked down below. And make sure to report any bugs that you find as well if you're trying to do stuff. Like if I'm trying to, I don't know, scale all of this stuff and something goes wrong or something breaks, make sure to let me know so I can fix it ASAP. I will be trying to do a day 1 or day 2 patch for this, trying to get as many of those initial bugs out of the way. So yeah, definitely help me out with that. And yeah, thanks for, oh, I keep saying thanks for, but the video's not over. I forgot to show you how to load levels. So when you create a level, it adds it to this folder in your documents that it creates called Rift Levels. If you go inside of it, you have all of the levels that you have to load. So if I go into the load menu here, all of these levels are stored inside of this folder. Oh, sorry, not this one. That's the other thing. Inside of this folder. And so when you create a level, for example, we just created editor tutorial, and you want to share this level with others. What you want to do is you basically just want to copy this file and you want to give it to the person you're trying to share it with. And then when they have that file, they're going to want to download it and they're going to want to drop it into their documents Rift Levels folder. And then once you do that, you can open up the game and you go to the load section and you just find whatever level it is that you're trying to play, go to it, hit load, it'll load the data for the level, and then boom, you can play their level with all of the settings and everything that they had set. All right, that's actually it. That's all I wanted to show you. Thanks again for watching the video. If you have any questions, make sure to let me know. Um, there is one more thing I could show you. If you want to rename a map, it's kind of finicky. You can't just change the name here. You also have to actually go inside of the file And some files can be really long, but we didn't really add much into this. You just want to go to the very end of it. You can use a text editor for this. I'm just using Visual Studio. And you want to go to the level name, and you want to make sure to rewrite this part in here just as you rename the file. You have to rename the file and the inside, and they have to be exactly the same. If you use underscores, if you use anything, they have to be exactly the same. Um, Otherwise, your file will be corrupted, and you won't be able to open it anymore. But yeah, that's. I haven't added any actual functionality for that in game yet. I do want to do that eventually, though, because I know a lot of people are probably going to name a level, I don't know, Super Buttman, and then want to change it to something more serious, want to actually take the editor seriously, which you should do because this is a cool piece of technology that I spent a lot of time creating. And yeah. Also, there's all these other tutorial text inside the actual editor in the create page and in the load page, as well as the text in the the tutorial tips in the HUD. So if ever you wanted to, get a bit of a refresher without watching this video, which is already I don't know how long, uh, you can always use those. All right, thanks for watching. Actually, ending this time. Thanks for watching, and have a good day, or night, or evening, or midnight, or beginning. I don't know. Bye.